So, second part of tonight, I rushed through the first one a little bit. So, we are looking here at the next learning unit, the idea of corporate level strategy. So, we'll spend a bit of time on the first set of outcomes there, what corporate strategy is, and then link it back to case studies. I think that that is important for us to do and spend a bit of time just to see where corporate level strategy fits into the overall company. So when we think of corporate strategy, we are thinking at the highest level strategy. So if I think of Ezra, yeah, thank you for that. Guys, please, I will update the booklet. I'm not happy with that third one. I don't know. And I honestly thought I'd fixed it. I don't worry about that. I'm not fussed about lateness, but welcome goodness. Okay, so I just need to open Teams. No, not Teams. I need to open Paint. So when we think of corporate level strategy, it is at the highest level of an organization. So if we think of Walmart, Massmart in South Africa, and we know that Walmart has the majority share now. So at the top there, we have Walmart and we have Massmart, a combination. In terms of the different divisions there, you will have macro as a division. So you'll have macro. I see that we still have game in Pietermaritzburg. I thought that game was going to close down. Um, and then you have got Builders Express. And I think there's a Builders Warehouse or something as well. So the corporate strategy is where we look at what Walmart and Massmart do as an overall organization. In terms of the divisions, this is an indication how these would compete. What does macro compete on? And we normally know that would be cost leadership or best value strategy. And there are tons of other examples. So when I think of big organizations, and I think sometimes people don't realize how big a group Tata, for example, is. So the overall group would be Tata Group, and then the different divisions. I'll try and indicate those very quickly. Would be, I'm just going to cheat a bit with the AI there. So Tata Group is a massive, massive global company. This is obviously where we focus from a corporate level strategy, and then they'll have their variety of divisions. So information technology and sub-elements there, automotive and sub-elements, steel and materials, etc., etc., etc. Let me see if I can show you more visually appealing what Tata entails, and also just a global company. Let me go to the Tata Group, and we'll try and find the divisions very quickly. Not going to be lucky today and find it very, very easily, so we'll cheat with AI a little bit. But you can see in terms of Tata, the Tata Group has a variety of divisions, and I'm going to cheat by going back here and just going to the AI render. These are tons and tons of divisions. These divisions compete in a particular way. So Tata Motors, they would compete on cost leadership. Jaguar Land Rover would certainly focus on differentiation. Our focus, however, as part of corporate strategy, is at the Tata Group level. We have Edcon in South Africa. We've got tons of divisions under Edcon and so forth. Virgin is another highly diversified company. So here we look at the top of the organization. These are the things that we do to take us to the group's vision. In terms of the questions you ask, the first one there is how many businesses should we operate in? And again, if we look at Tata, you can see the number of businesses that they operate in. I mean, it's everything from hotels to steel companies, I know at some point they had a tea farm as well. I don't know if they still have a tea farm. At some point, they also ran the Indian official airline. They provided the official airline for India. The second bit that we have to do is how do we build synergy in terms of these different business units? How should the head office guide and and indicate to them how to work together, or do we let them compete? And those decisions are important, or are we diversified enough in terms of the different divisions that they serve very different customers? But the synergy is essential, because if you think of the synergy that Massmart Walmart creates, I mean, they buy in bulk for all of those three companies and for divisions. And we know, for example, that Game was going to become like a junior macro type organization. I never shop at Game, so I can't comment what Game is like. Who here shops at Game, has shopped at Game in recent times? I don't understand that Game can still exist, to be honest with you. Who shops at Macro? Because I shop at Macro. Okay.
Honestly speaking, I can't lie. Like game is an all-in-one, really.
Game is a
It's like an all-in-one. They've got, like TVs, they've got groceries, they've got stationaries, they've got, how you go to Checkers and it's like all
okay.
groceries. Game
Oh,
has like
and oh,
game
okay.
is just like, TVs, PlayStations, PCs, air fryers and groceries on top of that and alcohol, and so it's kind of like an
Oh,
all-in-one type of place. Yeah, yeah, can't
so they
lie.
bid it
At
like a
least the one that we
hypermarket,
have.
like a hypermarket type thing, or
Kind of sort
hyperama.
of. Yeah, you see how macro is as well, how they deal in this whole like wholesale
Yeah, yeah.
sort of thing. Yeah, game is kind of like that. That's why most of the stores I've been to, it's always like this big, big, big store. You know what I mean? It's not just like a small outlet. It's always big.
Oh,
They've got
okay.
different sections for different things and stuff like that.
Yeah. See, why would you have game and have macro? I suppose game operate out of existing. No, but I don't know if that's always the case. That games operate out of malls where macros are standalone places. I don't even, yeah. It's a weird one for me that they would have both of those. But in terms of where we focus, it would be at the mass mart Walmart level. In terms of these corporate strategies, we have two options. We have growth, and then we have defensive strategies. So you can see the difference between what Tata Group would do and what the different business units would have to do. So here we are worried about things like which businesses should we be involved in? How do we build a relationship and synergy between our business units? All obviously tying into our strategic intent. And here, how do we compete? Do we compete on the basis of price? Do we compete on the basis of differentiation? Because that is at your business unit level. So if we look at the strategies that we have to unpack a little bit further, so here are the growth strategies. I don't know how well this is showing on the screen, but you can see the different options there, and we'll go through each of those. And then I don't like what the textbook says here, because it's not always the end game, but these are the defensive strategies. I don't like that term. What happens when you face significant threats and you have lots of weaknesses? How do you get an organization to survive when there's an onslaught on the organization? And it's about turnaround, it's about saving, it's about getting rid of elements in the business that don't work. This is the worst place to be when you declare bankruptcy. And if we look at the number of companies that liquidate in South Africa on an annual basis, those numbers are significant. So let's have a look at the growth strategies. So the first one, organic growth. I think the key thing in terms of organic growth is that the focus here is very much trying to stay with your existing customers, with your existing products. It is often the kind of growth strategy we adopt when there is some challenge in the environment, where we don't always have the best strengths, where there are some threats out there, our opportunities are limited. So we can see here in terms of market penetration, the key thing from a concentrated growth or market penetration perspective is that the focus is on an existing market. And it's often when a market hasn't reached saturation. And what we try and do is adopt a process of advertising, getting salespeople out, getting sales reps out, trying to get customers away from existing competitors, or working on that element in the market where there is still not full saturation. Those individuals that might have been late adopters, that haven't actually moved into that particular industry. So it's a lot of advertising. It is a lot of reminding people that we are still here and trying to pick up the last bits of customer pockets that aren't using these products. In terms of consolidation, it's another way to describe it is to almost have a hold and maintain strategy. So the focus in terms of a hold and maintain strategy is that what you want to do is you want to keep what you have in your existing market, and also what you want to do to stay relevant within that market. So you're trying to limit your risk exposure. You're trying to ensure that you remind your existing customers why they have supported you in the first place and why it's worth supporting you going forward. So it really is just, even in instances where there are challenges that are too significant, maybe moving away from that particular market, withdrawing, downsizing, and then also research and development, trying to get to economies of scale. But it is a hold and maintain strategy. It is a strategy of almost reminding the company itself that we have got a foothold. What do we need to do to keep that foothold in this particular market? And you can see it's when there are mature industries or declining industries. Give me examples of mature and declining industries in South Africa. Or let's start with declining industries. What are examples of declining industries? We might have discussed it in this class already. Who here still goes to movies? Goes to cinema, not to movie. Who still goes to cinema? Okay, one. How often do you go to cinema? Harris, okay. Who has stopped going to cinema and very infrequently goes to cinema? Because I very infrequently go to cinema. I'm not, I don't go. Oh, you visited on Friday. Yeah, Larissa, sorry, Laura, that's my answer as well. I can't remember when last I went. And in fact, the one in Pietermaritzburg is quite unpleasant now. So for me, that is a declining strategy. And you can also see that it is an industry in decline, because in Pietermaritzburg, last time we went, they were reshowing they were reshowing ancient movies, stuff from the 80s and the 90s. It's a sort of suggesting, that you should watch these old movies there. Um, yeah, no, absolutely. And I believe the new Spider-Man is worth that experience. Unfortunately, our cinema is so old that I enjoyed watching the latest Avatar on my TV more than I actually did in the cinema. You've stopped going altogether. Yeah. Also, when you've got a big screen TV and you've got everything that you can get online, it was a great movie because a lot of my students went. Oh, that's fantastic. That's the new Spider-Man. So the reality is, a lot of those companies are trying to desperately hang on to their little bit of market share that is left. Other declining industries in South Africa, other declining industries that, yeah, in a few years' time, we are not going to see them anymore. Any suggestions on declining
Hey,
industries?
probably the coal market, if we're being honest.
The coal market, yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, did you say coal or gold? Where?
Coal, as in like,
Coal,
coal,
yeah, coal is
you know.
disappearing. I mean, with
Yeah, we've got
renewables.
this whole renewable energy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. With renewables, again, why we have power stations is beyond me. Our gold market is also declining. I think we've mined out what was in the ground in South Africa. So in South Africa, that certainly is a declining industry. In terms of other growth strategies, market development. So here we take our existing products and we try and find new markets for existing products. So from a South African perspective, what are some of the famous imports from South? Oh, no, let me try that again. Famous innovations from South Africa that have been exported. Famous South African innovations that have been exported.
Hey, can I give it a try?
Go for it, Harris.
I was reading the other day, apparently, Sasol or Shell, either one of the two, found a way
Cecil.
to
Yeah.
take,
So
yeah, I
Cecil.
think it's
Yeah.
Sasol, found a way to take coal and convert it into, it's either diesel or some sort
Yeah.
of petroleum here in Mpumalanga, this place, Secunda.
Yeah. No,
And
we've
they,
had that for a long time. Yeah.
for a
No,
long
that's
time,
spot
yeah,
on.
they
Yeah.
exported I don't know whether to call it the ingredients or what, to China. And
So
I
under
didn't know we were
license to
one of the
China.
first
Yeah.
to, yeah, yeah, pioneer that.
Yeah, so that was South Africa, and obviously we had the inventors in South Africa for the creepy crawly, etc. And I think there's a lot of those kind of inventions that we've exported. There are other bits and pieces as well, dolosa, the things that you place at harbor entrances. In terms of some of the more modern companies that were founded in South Africa and that have started exporting, I think for me, Nando's is a wonderful example of that. You have Nando's all over London, and it's become part of their sort of general language use. The idea of Nando's. Other great companies that have started here and gone out from South Africa. Our banks are all operating now in African countries. We know, for example, that um, Southern Sun hotels now have got hotels in some of the Middle Eastern countries. So we have a lot of these examples of companies that had got to market saturation here and then had to go beyond South Africa in terms of taking their existing products to other markets. The second one is product development. So you can see here, either modifying an existing product, so that would be a facelift on a car, for example, would be a modification. And then obviously also creating new products for an existing market. So we know that Kellogg's at some point were launching new cereals all the time. I'm not a big cereal eater. Um, who still has Kellogg's for breakfast? Anyone still have Kellogg's for breakfast? No one has Kellogg's for breakfast. I see Kit Kat has now brought in some new flavors as well. Kit Kat done an update in terms of their options available. I see Fanta has a variety of being more than just what started off as Fanta Grape and Fanta Orange. Any other products and brands that do that kind of addition? Wheat Bix. Weetabix until you die, Laura. I think I would die if I had to have Weet-Bix. I can't stand Weet-Bix. That's awful. How do you make it? Do you do the whole um oh, you've got support there from Kelia as well. Oh my gosh. So do you do put the sugar on there? Try the strawberry one with water. Oh, that would be awful. Oh my gosh, wheat picks for life. I think, and it's interesting. I didn't even know that there is a strawberry wheat picks. There's a couple of people that quite like wheat picks. Oh, that's wonderful. Can I also ask, how do you make that? Warm milk, or do you also do the pour the water onto the wheat bix so the sugar melts into it and pour milk on it? Because that's how it's made in my house, and that's maybe why I don't particularly like wheat bix. Cold milk must be milk. Oh, I maybe I have tried it. It's not my favorite. A strawberry flavored oats also, yes, I saw that. I mean, that's also quite a clever idea. I wouldn't have that either. I have a protein drink for no water. Yeah, you can clearly see I don't know what I'm doing here. Okay, so we see market development and product development, and new products, guys. So often there'll be these upgrades that we have. The key in terms of product development, though, is the fact that we have a lot of research and development, and it's again to make these products fresh. Give me an example of products that still exist, that have never been developed, but still get used all the time, where the product is the original, and there's never been a focus on having to develop it in any way. Good old products that have survived forever. Doesn't need to have flavor in, etc. It's always interesting because there are those products that have not had any update. I mean, the original containers look the same. Any idea of those kinds of products? Vaseline. Oh, yes, absolutely. Although Vaseline has added additional products, paper clips, always, or sunlight, the green soap bar. For me, the most astonishing thing about sunlight are its 101 uses. The fact that you can use it for anything from making a drawing ointment for boils. Wheelbarrows have stayed wheelbarrows forever. Absolutely. The one that oh gosh, and I'm not going to, is it? Unfortunately, bacon, when it gets opened in this house, and sausages that get opened in this house get finished. Yeah, in particular when my son from university is home. Yeah, so it would serve no purpose here. Um, the one I'm thinking of, and it's something that it's been like this for a freaking 100 years, and certainly the green soap. Is it Brasso? Is it Brasso? What is it? No, I can't even spell it. Brasso, like that. This metal polish. Anyone remember Brasso? Oh, they've got different options for it. This hasn't changed. I see this is even the keyboard, another nice example, the QWERTY keyboard. I think there's some of these old style products that still stay the same. For the sunlight soap is a wonderful, the green soap bar is a wonderful thing. I mean, I've heard some strange uses of sunlight. In terms of diversification is where we we move in a new direction. So the related diversification and the main difference, this was a question in last year's exam, as I think of it right now. The QWERTY keyboard, yeah, Ezra. Um, this was definitely a question, and that it counted a heck of a lot. But again, the new format, it might reduce in the amount allocated. But in terms of diversification, we have two options related. And the best way to think of related diversification is where you stay within your existing technology, where you use your existing technologies and skills, etc. So it really just it is related to the skills and knowledge of the organization. Unrelated diversification is brand new territory. It's foreign to the organization. It often involves having to bring new skills into the organization, and often you'd have to rework your production processes completely to manufacture it. So, in terms of related diversification, and there are tons of these. For me, some of the interesting examples are, and I don't even know whether you're aware of this, that at some point VW had created a motorcycle. Anyone aware of the VW motorcycle? It was a complete disaster. Okay, it really didn't survive a long time. But examples of it is VW launching their Bucky, and it is Mercedes-Benz launching their Bucky. So the same skill set, but it's a brand new industry that you're entering into. Other examples of companies that did relate to diversification. Um, I'm staying with cars because I don't know why. KTM, they did this car thing that they built, the crossbow. So KTM, the motorcycle, is what the one that I keep thinking about. Build a car, a motorcycle company, staying with the existing technology, but moving into a brand new industry. Unrelated diversification is where you move away from your existing skill set, your existing technologies. If I think of a company that is almost personified by unrelated diversification, it is Virgin. Virgin started off as um, Virgin started off, oh, company, I don't need the other one that now went the wrong way. And the divisions, that's what I need there. I'm just going to cheat again. Uh, and remember, it started off as, I think, a student magazine, and then became a music shop, and did Virgin Records. And from Virgin Records, you can see how many new areas they've moved into. And it's every time it's so different. And the idea behind the Virgin label is that often they go into a place where they don't have the skills, where they don't have the knowledge, where they don't have the contacts. And I think that to me is unrelated diversification, where you constantly go into new industries where you don't always. Yamaha, Marius, what? Okay, I know that you have Yamaha organs. I know that. I don't know if they're the same company. Yamaha. Okay, so I obviously know Yamaha as a motorcycle company divisions. Oh my gosh. So they are the musical audio equipment, and then motorcycles, marine products. Oh my gosh. ATVs, UTVs, golf carts, robotics. Oh my gosh. Okay. That is an interesting one. I really didn't know that. It's a wonderful example, actually, Yamaha. But I know it as music instruments, and obviously also motorcycles. That's an interesting one. So, in terms of unrelated diversification, we move away from our existing skill set. And I think that's the difference. Please try and go and look for examples. Integration is where we take over either our competitors or our suppliers or our intermediaries. So, in terms of integration, and I'm so sorry, guys, I wish I could draw. It's just not within my capabilities. So, in terms of vertical integration, when we do vertical integration, we take over our, so if this is the company, organization, vertical integration. We take over our intermediaries. So we try and get closer to our customers. So a silly example, and it's a very dated example, but Ola Ice Cream, for example, bought the oh my gosh, what? And I can't remember the Milky Lane franchise to get closer to their customers. In terms of backward vertical integration is where we take over our suppliers, so we secure our own supply. So a lot of the Chinese vehicles, I know, for example, have bought suppliers in Australia to have a permanent supply in terms of their parts. Horizontal integration is where you take over your competitor. So one of the most crazy examples, and I don't know why I'm defaulting to cars tonight, but if you look at a highly horizontally integrated industry, so here you take over your competitors. Who owns who auto industry? It is, and I know this is not going to show up really nice. I'll try and get the more simple one of these. So you can see VW is to me the interesting one. VW owns everything from Volkswagen right to Bentley, Audi, etc. Owns Lamborghini. So at some point, Audi had owned Lamborghini, and they needed to buy Lamborghini to get access to the technology to both own the R8. But Volkswagen is a massive, massive, massive organization. And remember, started off as VW and then got Audi and then grew from there. I don't know if there are any of these. General Motors, not a real presence in South Africa anymore. Ford, you can see what is part of Ford, Nissan, and Nissan, you guys are aware, leaving South Africa very, very soon. And Hyundai owning Hyundai and Kia, Daimler, yeah, a variety, including Mercedes, smart cars, AMG. I like the fact that they see AMG as a separate entity to Mercedes. I find that very interesting. Honda, yeah, the luxury brand of Honda. Where are others here? I don't even see, oh, Toyota's up there. But if you look at it using this one, it is a highly, highly integrated industry. Unfortunately, this is not going to show really nicely here. Um, but it is a highly, highly integrated industry. And it's interesting in terms of that. There's a lot of horizontal integration that happens there all the time, where companies take over their competitors for whatever reason, whether it's to get access to their technology, to their skills, etc., etc. So in terms of integration, so here it is buying or merging with your competitors, horizontal integration. I think the key thing is when you purchase, there are a variety of things that your focus is to take over the company. One of the things that I did see as a question last year for this one, and it's worth noting, was the fact that they spoke about hostile takeovers versus friendly takeovers. And hostile takeover essentially where you buy shares in another organization, and until you have majority, and then you force the company into your own broader group. Purchase normally the assets, and the key thing in terms of that, it's the assets and the skills that you bring into it. Vertical integration in terms of backward integration when you take over the supplier, and then forward when you take over an intermediary. Forward vertical integration could also mean that you as a company will set up. So, for example, USN, you have a USN website and you can buy directly from them. If you open a factory shop, for me, that still is forward vertical integration. So, in terms of corporate combination strategies, I don't know if you guys recognize those two vehicles, the Toyota 86 and the Subaru BRZ. So, at this stage, Toyota now has bought a majority share in Subaru. But when the Toyota 86 was launched, and BRZ, I don't think launched in South Africa, they launched in other markets. Toyota needed the Subaru engine, and Subaru needed the Toyota building technology. So they then created this kind of corporate combination where you work together. So initially, it was more a, oh, where is that? Initially, it was a joint venture. So no, sorry, it was a strategic alliance. The difference between a strategic alliance and a joint venture is, in a joint venture, you create a new organization that is separate from the two parties, the two partners. And again, it's about sharing. Oh my gosh, what am I doing? It's about sharing skills. It's about sharing technologies. It's about in at some point in South Africa, in Nissan, they were building Renault vehicles in the Nissan factory in Pretoria. And I think the key thing is that it often, by having a joint venture, you can start competing with the bigger companies, the existing competitors, or you can get into a new industry. Strategic alliance is temporary. I think the two companies remain independent, but they share certain things. So for the Toyota 86 BRZ, Toyota needed the Boxer motor from Subaru, and Subaru loved the idea of launching a car in South Africa. Toyota launched under 300,000 for a rear wheel drive vehicles. I now know that the latest Toyota 86s, the GR86 is about 850, 800 plus. Then the defensive strategies. So often when you have a lot of threats in against the organization and you have a lot of weaknesses, you would then go with your defensive strategies. Or if there is a turn down in the economy. So we've seen a defensive strategy recently in that Nissan has left South Africa. I don't know how much longer Nissan will be here. And you can see they are, I'm going to, and I don't want to use the word dumping, but it appears that they're dumping the existing stock at deeply, deeply reduced discounts, and they're selling, yeah, whatever is left over at a really good price, but with the awareness that they are leaving the industry. So, in terms of turnaround, it is, what do we do? Which industries do we leave? What do we close down in the company in order to try and get this organization to survive? So the first option there is a retrenchment strategy. So I think it can be cost cutting by becoming more efficient. And you can see the stuff that goes into cost cutting here, getting rid of non-essential items. So getting rid of products that don't really sell, that essentially competitors have taken over such a vast area of the market that is not worth having. So selling off factories that are inefficient, trying to automate and bringing in the robotics, not um, dealing with new projects, waiting till the cash flow increases, seeing if you can renegotiate debt, and then not buying but leasing. So it is about trying to at least survive until the economy picks up. And then also you can see non-core assets. So you can see land, equipment, buildings, etc. They don't form part of our core core activities. A recovery strategy, and often a recovery strategy goes hand in hand with bringing in new blood. And they talk about entrepreneurial blood. For Pick and Pay, who was in big trouble, they bought back, gosh, they bought back Rosen. I can't remember now what his name is, to try and revive Pick and Pay, because when he left Pick and Pay, they were at the top of the pile. I can't actually remember. Um, I might have the name wrong. CEO. I can't remember who it is. No, Sean Summers has left. Okay, between so they brought back Sean Summers. My apologies. Sean Summers left Pick and Pay at the height of their successes, and since then they've struggled. And he's come back in his 70s now to try and revive Pick and Pay. I, I don't think Pick and Pay is doing well at all. We can clearly see they're starting to close down stores, etc., in order to try and cope. We remember what Edgar's went through, a number of attempts to survive, and then rebranded and reformatted their store as part of a turnaround strategy to look more like a Mr. Price, and then just also revenue growth. I think here it is about specials and dropping prices, and Pick and Pay are trying it. I mean, sometimes they have really good indoor specials, but it's trying to stay at least relevant. Divestiture then is closing down plants, selling off divisions, getting rid of divisions. We know that Ford, a good few years ago, were in financial trouble, and they sold and Range Rover and Jaguar to Tata. They sold Volvo, at some point belonged to Ford as well. They sold Volvo to Geely, the Chinese brand, bringing in new technologies. And you can see what happens. This is when it gets very tough. And we can see Nissan, in terms of leaving South Africa, as part of a divestiture process as well. And you can see the options, and you can have a look at it, because I'm now rushing through it because it's 20 past, 26 past. And then your exit strategies, selling the business, liquidation, and again, where you sell the business off in a whole, and often in South Africa, these have processes. So do your bankruptcy. This is the least favorable option. And as I said earlier, we have a lot of companies closing down. Guys, I'm not going to get to this. I'm not going to get to this. Okay, any questions, any comments? I will update that booklet. I'm not happy with that booklet. There will be a new booklet appearing sometime this week. I will also upload this recording. I did share a link to the assignment recording. Did everyone get a glance at that? I put it on Arc. Okay, so please remember the link to the assignment